Welcome to Night's Arcade, I'm Sleepless Night, and over the past weekend I've been playing the latest entry in the Worms franchise, Worms Rumble. Don't go away. Worms games represent exactly the kind of local multiplayer silliness that I always got a kick out of before 21st century global multiplayer came along to yell mean things about our mothers across the virtual corpses of more human-looking foes. The problem for me with most of the more recent Worms games is that other games moved on, while Team 17's most famous baby, now overweight and greying at the temples, was still clinging to its bygone college football years. The die-hard fans played on, of course, buying each new game from the Worms franchise, even when that new game simply added more weapons and some new maps, waiting for the devs to add something a little more meaningful, something that might change the game up a little. Well, they finally have, and many of those same die-hard fans now just want them to put the genie back in the bottle, since Team 17's solution to that problem is to jump on the Battle Royale bandwagon. Now, before I wade out any further into the waters of unfair criticism, it needs to be noted that the Worms franchise has always been a team elimination game, lending itself very well to the Battle Royale label since long before the book and subsequent film redefined the term and gave birth to the modern BR genre. But the games we nowadays call Battle Royale tend to be fast-paced first- and third-person affairs, taken very seriously by people earning six-figure salaries to make shooting you in the face a global spectator sport. The Worms games, by contrast, have always been more friendly affairs, with different strategies from the BR games we've become accustomed to. Are you a rifleman or grenadier? A rope master or super sheep savant? A tunneler or a collector? All these strategies had merit in most of the Worms games to date, but I'm not sure the majority of those have any place at all in Worms Rumble. Now, I have been able to play very little of Worms Rumble so far, as it crashed for the first couple of days every time it loaded up, and since then it's been almost impossible to get into a match. Of course, this is in beta, so issues like this are to be expected, and it's closed beta, so the number of people available for matches is obviously limited. But that does raise the issue of just how much life such a game like Worms Rumble would have in it for those wishing to play regular matches, especially considering it seems as though Xbox and Nintendo are being completely left out of the loop this time around. Rumble has retained the 2D platform elements of its better-loved Worms ancestors, although this is more in the Worms Revolution 2.5D style, despite some of the 3D impressions given by the Worms Rumble trailer. Franchise favourites such as the banana bomb, the baseball bat and the holy hand grenade have made the cut. The familiar Worms audio is still sounding great. Your Worms will leap, squeak and grunt around the map as they ever could, although these Worms seem imbued with a Mercury-like swiftness rarely seen in previous titles. I didn't have the chance to play with a controller, but the mouse and keyboard controls are pretty crisp and comfortable and make aiming in a hurry a possibility unlikely to be offered by a thumbstick. You can still creep around in tunnels, although so far only ready-made ones, and there are still cheeky voices and cosmetics to play around with. But that seems to be where the similarities to previous Worms games end. So far, we've only been allowed to peek at the deathmatch mode, and playtime has been limited, but there seems to be no rope action, no airdrops, none of the rarer weapons that bring variety and humour into more classic Worms games, and no digging for those bunker players out there. Worms Rumble is a 32-player cross-play combat arena-style game, and that obviously means one or two major departures from the Worms formula. One of the biggest is real-time combat. This type of fast-paced combat is pretty much the only game in town these days, but turn-based is the foundation that Worms team elimination games are based on. Nostalgia isn't what it used to be, after all, and dusty old Worms players like myself may feel like they have nowhere left to hide. Of course, if hiding patiently away is your Worms kung fu, then 31 other players looking for you in real time are likely to make that pretty tough. But what they won't be able to do is demolish your carefully feathered nest, since the other major departure from formula is an apparent lack of destructible environments. Possibly the keystone of most Worms games of the past, since a changing terrain meant rethinking and adapting your strategy to meet the exploding landscape. I am still vaguely hopeful that updates and future beta will introduce us to gameplay mechanics and more varied weaponry and utilities, as well as different game modes that may offer a more familiar Worms experience with a bit of 21st century polish, and this was a little bit of light-hearted fun during the short time I was able to play it. So far though, it just looks like two-dimensional invertebrate Fortnite, which will likely alienate a good percentage of Worms fans without offering anything to bring younger BR players in from tried and tested games like Fortnite, PUBG or Apex Legends. But I hope I'm wrong. Maybe this will be a fun distraction from the hardcore Battle Royale titles, and maybe it will be a gateway drug for those who have yet to experience the Battle Royale format in all its blazing 3D action, complete with bipeds, but we'll have to wait and see. That's all from me and Worms Rumble for the time being, but you can follow me on Twitter at knights_arcade if you want to join the conversations about this and other games coming up over the next few months and years. If you want to join my live streams every Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, you can find the link to my Twitch channel in the video description and channel header, as well as links to the Knights Arcade Discord, Facebook and Patreon pages. But if you don't want to do any of those things, simply leave a like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future, and ring the bell to be notified whenever I post new content. But until next time, from Knights Arcade, this is Sleepless Night, saying nighty-night.